Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. We've got something very cool today to show you guys. This is a case called the Protolyth Slate. It's a small form factor case which has multiple internal layouts. You heard that right. Now, I'm just going to say this from the beginning. This is a prototype of this case. We've had this here for a little while. I've been tinkering with it a little bit. So I'm gonna show you this brand new case that's coming out really soon from Protolyth and what it can do. And as I mentioned, like, this is a prototype, so the fit and finish isn't quite as good as the retail version, but this will give you a good idea of what the case can do. So let's see what it can do. Let's start off with the panel removal. Most of the panels on this case are magnetic, so you'll need to be able to get your fingers between the case itself and the panel to lift it away, and the magnets are very, very strong. Front panel is the same. It's all magnetic, all of it. Every last little bitty is magnetic, and I love it. Give me more magnets on cases. The idea is, this is a frame for the case. As I said, it does have a couple of its own tricks up its sleeve. So what we actually need to do is remove the front panel. Once we pull out those 8 screws, we can then remove the front panel, and it takes the front IO with it as well. There's a bunch of screws inside the case here. Basically, the idea is it grabs onto the rail system that's built into this case. I've pre-loosened them just so we can get this out easier, but basically there's 6 of these around the edge. So there's 2 at the top here, there's 4 at the bottom, and when you loosen them, it'll allow you to slide the inside of the case out. Now remember, this is a prototype, so this is not the fit and finish of the final version of the case, but this will give you an idea of what the capabilities of this case are. And that right there, ladies and gents, is the core of the case. This will give you an idea of how everything will fit if you're deciding to build in this case. The layout that it ships with that we're seeing here is the sandwich layout. However, because of the clever little design tricks of this case, this internal layout can actually be changed. This is the sandwich bracket that comes pre-installed on this case. However, it does come with a traditional layout bracket as well. So if we were to swap it out, this would give you an idea of how the bracket would look if it was attached to the frame of the case. However, for the purposes of this build that we're going to be doing with this case, we're gonna leave it in the sandwich layout, because for me personally, I think it's probably gonna be the most popular layout. And to me personally, it's a little bit more interesting than the traditional layout, because you are kind of losing a couple things with both type of layouts. So say for instance, you wanted to go for the sandwich layout here, right? You're getting better GPU height allowance, so you can put taller GPUs in the layout. You've also got better overall clearance for any type of liquid cooling, so even including AIOs, it's going to be better in the sandwich layout. You've got more clearance in general for the radiators and that kind of stuff as well. However, you've got less storage options, which I don't think is much of a deal breaker these days. And if you're wanting to do air cooling, you're getting much lower height clearance. However, if you're going for this traditional bracket, you're getting better air cooler clearance if you're using an air cooler, if you wanted to air cool your CPU, which potentially could be something you can look towards. You're also getting 4-slot GPU clearance. You get more space available for those storage options as well. And you can also access the backside of the motherboard directly if you've got like an M.2 on the backside of your motherboard too if you're using this bracket, but you get less GPU height support. It also depends on the power connectors in your GPU. It's not really that good for an AIO setup as well. And if you use the aluminium feet that come with this case, you're losing a bit more of motherboard IO space. For fan and radiator support, you can do dual 280mm radiators. So you can do one at the front, one at the back. One of the fans, which would be the bottom fan here, would be, you'd need to use one of the slim fans, but you could technically do it. That's the maximum configuration, I would say, for liquid cooling. You can also get away with up to a 60mm thick radiator but for dual radiators, you would want to go 30mm max, and that would again require one of those slim fans. In terms of GPU clearance, you're looking at around 327mm, and if we do the ye old ROG Strix test, you can see that the Strix card easily fits inside the Slate. Fan is a little bit blocked, but that's no big deal. That's not going to impact the cooling performance all that much. For GPU height, you're looking at about 170mm. Obviously, this isn't the GPU mod configuration, which is how I think I'm going to build in this case, because I don't think it's going to impact thermals. However, I do think it's going to be better for cable management in the long run. For power supply support, you're looking at SFX or SFXL power supply support. However, one thing I just noticed is you can install the power supply either way, or if you wanted to run the cables that way, you can also do that. It's got a couple more tricks up its sleeve too. So you've got these multi-use brackets that are mounted to this other rail that is otherwise unused for mounting the core of the case. This is a set of brackets that allow you to mount SSDs, DDC pumps for custom liquid cooling. Basically anything that you can make fit on this bracket. Some of the time, if you're doing custom liquid cooling in a case like this, you'll have to make your own solution. Front panel I/O is actually quite interesting on this case as well. So you've got some pretty normal things. So you've got a microphone jack, a headphone jack, and a USB Type-C port. However, the power button here is what I find interesting, right? For the keyboard enthusiasts out there, you'll already know what this is. This is a key switch from a keyboard that's used for the power button. That's very cool. I'm sure people who have been keeping their eye on this case will know exactly what switch it is in there. That was an interesting turn of events. It's a cherry green switch. Now you can actually shift the internals of the case over a little bit. I'm gonna show you how this works. So there's 4 screws to loosen, and this is basically going to remove the bottom plate, and we're gonna move it from the whole position that it was in to this further position. The other thing you need to do is move the top of the case as well, which is very easy to do. There's 2 more screws. As I said, there's 4 screws in total, and then we'll move the bracket to the second position, which is in. Basically, this has allowed us to move over the internals 1 slot size, so we can have a thicker GPU. There's also another mod you can do, which is called the GPU gap mod, which allows you to increase some clearance so you can actually get more cable management space too. To gap the GPU, what you'll want to do is remove the PCIe bracket, use the included standoffs and screws. Basically, there's using those 2 standoffs that I showed a bit earlier. We'll then refasten the PCIe bracket, and now what you've done is you've added some additional airflow space behind the GPU, and you've also given yourself the opportunity to run cables behind there as well. Believe it or not, the Slate actually has one more trick up its sleeve. So traditionally with the layout of the case, you'd be having it in this configuration where you'd have it standing upright, I/O pointing down. If you wanted it to be a more traditional sandwich layout case, you remove this rear, we push that in, flip the case this way. We can then reinstall it like this. And you'll need to use the 2 included longer screws. Essentially what you do, you remove the screws on these brackets here. Now this isn't the final version of the feet. They line up with these holes here. And then you can install the included feet that go all the way around on each corner. But this just gives you an idea of what you can do if you like. So you can install the feet, then you get the additional clearance. You've got your fan and radiator mounting on the bottom. So yeah, then you have all your I/O pointing out the back here, and your power buttons on the top, and Bob's your uncle. That's basically everything you need to know about the Protolyth Slate. Now, I've got to say, again, there's a lot of things I didn't cover in this video because this is a prototype, so it is not the final version of the case. However, it does give us a good look of what the final version will look like. Now, this case in particular is probably going to ship around September of 2022, which is this is the year that we're filming it. However, as a big caveat, because this is a pre-order case that requires funding and it's not using a platform like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or anything like that, I'm not gonna say buy this case right now because we just don't know. However, from what I can tell, the quality is quite good. The reason why I'm saying this is we've seen other cases like June case, which just have not shipped. I'm not saying that this is gonna happen. I'm just saying be aware of pre-ordering cases just in general, or basically just pre-ordering anything in general. I'm not saying it's bad. The case is very compelling. It has some really cool, unique features, but just keep that in mind. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna build with the prototype, we're gonna test the thermals, and then I'm gonna let you guys finally know what I think of the Protolyth Slate. Let's do a build. Ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the build in the Protolyth Slate. Let's take a little bit of a look at the thermals. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals aren't actually too bad. However, I did something as I was a little bit curious to see what the thermals would be like if I flip the panels around. So I reverse the panels, so solid panel on GPU side and the open panel on the CPU side. And as you can see, don't do that. It's no good because I know that we'll get comments about this. So, you know, I had to test it for my own sanity. Now, we'll probably come back and test this case in other configurations, but I've spent enough time on this as it is. So if you guys are interested in seeing other configurations of this case, let me know in the comments down below. But let's quickly chat about some of the parts that were used in this build. Now, you probably noticed that we didn't film it the way that we usually filmed it. We kind of changed it up a bit, but the CPU is the Intel Core i7-12700K. We put the 12700K on the Gigabyte B660i AORUS Pro DDR4. To cool the 12700K, we used the NZXT Kraken X63 RGB in white. The GPUs, the Asus RGB RTX 3080 Gundam Edition. Claire, you wanna know a secret? Someone commented the other day, because I wrote Gundam on purpose to make people comment. They're like, it's Gundam, and I'm like, I know, but it makes you comment. Like yeah. That's funny, right? I added two 120mm slim fans up the front as intake, and as you can see, the AIO in the back of this is exhaust, and this is the optimal configuration for this case if you're doing it this way. And I actually tested this a little bit as well by flipping the fans around and playing around with the configuration a bit, and this seemed to give me the best thermal performance, so use it like this. And if I missed any of the parts, I'll put a PC part picker list down below in the description. Obviously, you can't buy this case yet. It is not available. And speaking of, let's talk a little bit about the Slate. The build quality of the Slate is actually pretty good for a prototype. Now, there are quite a few things that you notice that are from the prototyping stage that won't be in the final version. Things like the runners for the pull out and slide mechanism for the core of the case. Those are supposed to be metal, they're plastic here. A lot of the covers and stuff are plastic. The feet aren't the aluminium feet that you will find in the retail version as well. So there are quite a few little things that they use just to get the case together close to how the production version will be. So this is more of a pre-production sample rather than a prototype, because a prototype would probably imply that, you know, it's a lot less further down the line than this is, because this is very close to what you would get if you were to be buying this case. Now, to build in the Slate, it is really easy. Basically, the core of the case, you build it outside of the case. Takes a little bit of planning. I would probably do it in the order that I did it in because I found that to be the easiest way. The great thing is with the core, you can cable manage everything around it other than plugging in the fans and all that stuff. So you just make allowances for all of that stuff. I found that really easy. I quite liked it. In terms of building in other orientations for this case, this is something I want to explore later. I think this case is very interesting. The fact that internal layouts can change is pretty excellent, very unique to this case. Not only is the internal layout interesting, the fact that you can rotate the case and make it more of a regular sandwich layout case, so not in this tower style, you can lay it down flat too and add the feet. That's really cool. It's kind of like a shape-shifting transformer that can do almost everything. Not only that, if you want, the core of the case can be put in reverse too. You don't even have to have it in the same layout. And what I mean by that is you can have the GPU on the other side and flip the panels all around if you want to have it more dominant on the GPU side, if you're going for that aesthetic desk look and whatever you want. This case has lots and lots of options, and I hope that I helped you understand and explore some of the options that are available with this case. But like I said, there's a couple things that I didn't talk about. Now, some of those things are the riser cable in this sample right here is only PCIe Gen 3, but I spoke to the guys at Protolyth about this, and they told me that if they get enough pre-orders, they'll change it out for a PCIe Gen 4 riser cable when that time comes. The other thing is they sent me a right-angled DisplayPort cable as well, which appears to be like a $12 option if you're buying this case from their website as well. So, you know, there are little things that if you are using it in this layout do make it a little bit easier, but just be aware of all of that stuff there. I'll put links to the product page for this website so you can decide if it's something that you're interested in all on your own. I think it's a pretty compelling case. There's one glaring thing with this case though, and that is the price. Now, when you're looking at boutique small form factor cases, this is always going to be either the deal maker or the deal breaker. Because if you're interested in the Protolyth Slate, it's going for around $325 US at the time of filming this video. And that is pre-order only. And I think the pre-orders are probably only going to be open for another couple days after this video goes live. Yeah, so that's basically everything I've got to say about the Slate. But let me know if you want to see me do some more stuff with this case, because there are lots more things I want to explore, but I'll only do it if that's something you guys would like to see. And if you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button down below. And if you're not subscribed yet, get yourself subscribed and ring that little bell to get notifications. Anyways, guys, I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek, and I think it's time for some cinematic tings. Let's do it. Oh yeah, and thanks for watching.